Well, let's speak now to the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Jonathan Ashworth. And I wonder if we can start... morning to you, by the way. Sorry, I'm being incredibly rude. Let's start with those ONS figures. Unemployment creeping up and expected to continue to go in that direction. I mean, that would be worrying if we weren't experiencing, record, almost historic lows in that particular regard.
Well, what you've seen from the statistics, which just came out just first thing this morning, is that you're seeing the real impact now of both low growth. In fact, we've gone from low growth to no growth under the Conservatives. You're also seeing the impact of a problem in your NHS because we've got the highest numbers out of work for reasons of sickness, probably on record, about 2.5 million. And you've got increasing numbers of older workers have left the labour market. So what you're seeing now is that we, unlike other countries, have not recovered our pre-pandemic employment rates. And you're also seeing wages collapsing because of the ravages of inflation. It's why you need a plan for growth. You need a plan to reform and rescue and fix your NHS, and you actually need significant welfare reforms that I've been putting forward to support people back to work.
When you have, though, inflation running in double digits, I mean, there's not an awful lot you can do to stop that disparity between wage growth and where inflation is sitting. Is there really? Otherwise we'll be seeing massive pay increases across the board.
Well, that's why you've got to try and get more people back into work. It's why I've put forward significant reforms to the way in which our social security system works, to stop trapping people out of work, to deal with the traps in the social security system, to encourage people back to work, but also to offer people better support. Look, you had Rishi Sunak yesterday saying everybody should learn maths till 18. Well, great if there were the teachers there. But one of the problems we've got in our labour market is there's millions of people with poor literacy, poor numeracy, not getting any tailored support from the job centres, from the employment system, to help them find good jobs. They're changes that I want to bring in.
It sounds to me that you wouldn't be too far away from Rishi Sunak and his desire for a high-wage, high-skill economy.
Well, that's a Labour desire. We want high wages, we want high skills, we want high growth. In fact, we've got a big ambition to grow our economy so it's the fastest-growing economy in the G7. Under Rishi Sunak, after 13 years of Conservatives now, we've had low growth, we've got low wages, people are worse off. People are hard up. People can't afford the basics in life. That's what 13 years of Conservative rule gives you.
Let's talk just briefly, if we can, about prepayment meters in terms of energy use. And we have had some movement from Ofgem on this one. It's a code of practice that the energy companies are going to agree to. Does it go far enough? I mean, I remember conversations I had with people in government not that long ago, and the idea that it would only be banned for, disabled people and those over 85. It feels as if they haven't gone quite as far as they were intending.
I mean, I think they're dragging their heels. I think the government have dragged their heels. They should have got a grip of this. We know that people are really struggling with energy bills, which have gone through the roof, as well as everything in the shop. The weekly shopping's gone up. I mean, the price of everything has gone up, and people are worse off after 13 years of the Conservatives. When we're in this type of crisis, this cost of living crisis, the government should be doing everything to get a grip of these scandals. And the fact that it's still slow, they're dragging their heels, it's just so frustrating for people who are really struggling at the moment.
Would Labour then legislate to ban this practice?
We've got to take action on this. I mean, look, I'm not enough of a payment meter specialist to know if legislation is necessarily the right answer in this particular circumstance. But I do know the government should be getting a grip of it now.
Can we talk about the elections that are forthcoming? And, of course, time is running out for people if they want to get their voter ID sorted out. Certainly today, the last day to get your postal vote done. What do you make of these voter ID reforms? I mean, the line from the government is pretty straightforward. We don't really have any opportunity to know exactly how widespread fraud is in this area. Every other country, and lots of other countries in Europe do it. What is the problem?
We've had these regulatory bodies which investigate voter fraud, and we've had hardly any. Had hardly any whatsoever. And the thing that gets me is, I mean, I've had this on the doorstep when I've been knocking on doors. Why is it if you're an older person, you can use your Oyster card, your bus pass, but a younger person can't?
Well, the government line is that it requires more identification to achieve that, to gain an older person's rail card than it does a young person's rail card.
That sounds very suspect to me.
So would the Labour Party act to repeal?
Well, I don't think we need this voter ID. We've never had this before.
Labour would repeal this? Labour would remove it in government?
We should be doing everything we can to increase voter turnout, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if voter turnout drops as a consequence of these changes that have been put in place. And
which appears to suggest to me that if we don't see significant
we're not in favour of it. We didn't support this.
No,
we didn't support this.
But I'm asking you, would you repeal it if you?
Well, I think in the legislation there has to be a review of it. So we have to look at that review. But look, we're not in favour of this. So I'm sure we will want to take the measures in place to expand voter turnout.
I mean, so what is it that you think is so difficult for people to log on to a website, tap in their national insurance number and upload a photo? In fact, you don't even need to do that. There are countless ways in which you can prove your identity. Given that so much of Europe does this, I'm just wondering what the problem is.
I think the issue is, look, you know, we live in a world where I suspect both you and I are probably pretty comfortable with using the internet now to apply for things.
It is becoming increasingly difficult the older I get, I have to say.
Well, there you go. I mean, you say that in jest, but there is a generation, not necessarily an age, by the way, because perhaps they cannot afford the 5G associated with their phone. They cannot afford Wi-Fi, who are digitally excluded. I mean, I get that on the doorstep when I go around my own Leicester constituency. We kind of assume in Westminster that everyone's got access to the internet and that everybody perhaps will be watching this online. They won't be. So we don't want to exclude people who have not got easy access to the internet, and that's the thing that really worries me.
How is Labour going to perform at these set of local elections? We know from the Conservative Party chairman that they're expecting to lose 1,000 seats. I'm wondering.
Well, that's where he has to say that, doesn't he? So when he comes on your show, he can say,
I'd like you to be able to tell me something. How do you think you're going to perform?
Well, I'm not a psephologist, but what I do know is when I talk to people across the country, they are really had enough of 13 years of Conservative government where the economy isn't growing, living standards have collapsed, and you cannot get an appointment with a GP when you want it. The waiting lists for the NHS are going through the roof and getting worse. I mean, they're the things that people are talking about in this election campaign.